Well, I'm so excited to chat with you about this incredible undertaking, a new media company that you have created. Can you first just tell us a little bit about yourself and what it was that led you to create this incredible company?
If you asked me a year and a half ago if media was anywhere on my radar, I'd say absolutely not. It's the most ridiculous notion ever. I've always been very private, and the thought of media or anywhere close to it was so beyond anything I would imagine. And so I don't think I went to seek it out, but somehow I believe it seeked me out. But the reason why Papaian Studios was established and founded, there's a big part of my heart that believes that we can use it in order to help people understand that there's such a tremendous message of love and kindness that I think we as a society have departed from in so many different ways, and in small ways and in big ways. And so we're hoping through Papaian Studios we could bring that back. It's such a huge part of my husband. He was such a kind man, a loving man. But he was many, many things, but he was a good man. He did goodness so well. He was very good at so many different things, but being a good man was one of the top, I would say, attributes about my husband. And he always was kind to everyone, and he was loving. And so in continuing his spirit, that's what we want to do with Papaian Studios, is to bring all of that back with the love and the kindness back into storytelling, good storytelling, not cheesy ones, very good storytelling and very, very tremendous music, things that touch your heart, that can bring kindness and love back into every aspect of our lives. That's what we're hoping to do.
I love that. And that's what we need so desperately. I mean, you look at the world right now and you look at all the chaos that's going on and you talk about messages of faith and family-friendly messages and even difficult stories that need to be told because they bring people to a place of having a deeper faith. And so one of my favorite things about storytelling is testimonies and hearing people's testimonies and journeys of how they've gone from darkness to light and how they've journeyed through and things they've learned along the way. And you're doing this at a really good time because the film and the TV industry, particularly when it comes to the faith side of things, has really grown so much. You mentioned not doing it in a cheesy way. I think one of the critiques of the industry in the beginning, because people were learning and they were new at it, was that some of the movies, they didn't necessarily come at it from a really developed perspective, but they are starting to now. There's some really incredible TV content and film content that is coming out, and it's really exciting. And you mentioned your husband. I read on your website a
Mm.
really beautiful letter that you wrote to your late husband. And I'd love for you just shared a little bit, but share a little bit more about him and, other elements that made him so special, because when you read that letter, you can just feel the love that you have for him.
He's if you want to hear about my story, you'll probably need several days, weeks, even. There's so many. He didn't, he didn't start out with a lot, but he made it work in whatever capacity. My husband was present in every space that he occupied. And when he became, I hate to use this word, but when he made it in what society standards would dictate as making it in life, he never forgot his roots. And one of the most tremendous things that I felt during his service, two of his very close friends came up, and they've been friends for like 6 decades. And they ended their speech with, Haig left the way he started, the gentle, kind man. He never changed. And for me, that was tremendous. And he was, as I mentioned earlier, he was good in so many things, but the best thing he was good at was being good. He was a good man. He was a tremendous husband, an amazing father, and anybody who knew my husband, their lives were better for it. And that's the honest truth. He brought such goodness to a world where we were slowly, I feel, going away from it. There was a veteran. There was never a veteran uncared for around my husband. There was never a child that, if they couldn't make it to college, that he didn't help in some way. There was never a family in need that my husband didn't say yes to. And he said yes to anybody in need. And he showed up in ways that were quiet and silent. He didn't bring any fanfare. You needed help, he was there in the most silent ways. Nobody knew about it, but he was there. In that to me, in the subtle silence of his kindness and his love, it spoke volumes. It screamed. And during his service, so many came up and spoke about the love that he had. And so I'm not sure if you want specific stories, but if you want to know him generally, that was my husband. And he loved me in such a way that I really did not have any reservation in being his wife, in fulfilling my role as his wife. I flourished in my role as his wife. I believe I was extremely successful in every aspect that I touched because he loved me so unconditionally. It allowed me to be fully feminine, fully wife, fully mother in every aspect, in every role that I fulfilled. He allowed me to have the courage to go to the ends of each role that I had to fulfill.
That's incredible. And that now that you're doing this, this amazing work, and Papaian Studios, promoting hope and kindness, and supporting positive stories and content. I know that Jimmy is your first project here, and I will tell you, I went out to Ireland and I was on set, and I was blown away by just how incredible the storytelling was, how beautiful it all was, and getting to be there for it was really amazing. But why Jimmy? Why did you choose this to be the studio's first project?
Okay, so I was getting on a plane when the script was sent to me, and I had a 10-hour flight, and I finished eating, and then I finally opened the script, and I read it. And honestly, I don't know how anybody else read the script, but for me, I received it as a personal love letter from God to me, because in every aspect of the story, Jimmy showed grace, he showed kindness, and there was such a tremendous humanity in Jimmy that resonated with me, because it captured my husband's personality. So I was like, I didn't realize Jimmy and my husband had so many traits in common. And so there's a message of love there, and there's a message of kindness there in Jimmy that I truly believe the world needs to hear more. And Aaron does a tremendous job in working with the team to bring that message forth in such a beautiful way, in a non-cheesy way. And it's unfortunate I didn't get to meet you on set, because I also flew out to Ireland, and watching the team interact with each other, watching the team build together, and watching the team love and be kind to each other. They truly lived it. It wasn't just spoken about. They truly lived it. And so for me, the script for Jimmy talked about it, and then watching the team live it, that was tremendous. And that was something I really wanted to be a part of and support.
Yeah, and it was really fun to watch. And Aaron Burns, the director and the mind behind the whole entire project, he does such an incredible job. People are going to love watching this later this year. But you're an executive producer, and you're making, I think this is really important, I want to talk about this. You're making a very significant contribution to veterans for tickets to allow veterans, first responders, active military to go see this film when it comes out for free with their families. That is such an amazing and beautiful gift. What made you decide to do that?
Again, that was in the spirit of my husband. He loved veterans. My husband was probably one of the biggest patriot you would have ever met. And he loved veterans. He loved servicemen. He truly, truly valued anybody who served for our country, their sacrifices. And so with him, no veteran, like I said, was ever uncared for. We'd go into restaurants if there were veterans or military personnel there. He'd pay for their meal, but he would never ever tell anyone that he did it. And I watched this as his wife. If there was a vet out on the street, my husband was so good at going up to them, asking them what they need, and bring it. And he did it in such a human manner. There was, like I said, it was so subtle, and it was so loving in his quiet demeanor, the way he did it. And he, at his business, no military or veteran would ever eat, have to pay for their meals. That everyone ate for free. And so I knew it would be something he would do if he was here. I knew he would be the first one to say, let's get our vets in there, And so in his spirit, and in his, memory, I wanted to do it. And it comes back to what Papaian Studios is about. And we're hoping that just this small contribution would be able to bring so many families the smiles that they deserve.
I love that. And when it comes to Jimmy itself, what do you hope people take away? Because you were talking about Jimmy Stewart, and this is a man with such an incredible story. Every Christmas people watch, the film It's a Wonderful Life, and they don't know, a lot of them, who Jimmy really was, what he went through. This film tells such a great story. I don't want to spoil any of it, but it's so good. What are you hoping the audience walks away with?
I hope that everyone watching Jimmy and leaving the theater will be able to understand that we all have our difficult times. We all go through troubled times. We all go through moments in our lives when we don't know if we have any more love to give, that we will still continue to choose love, that there's a grace there, that we can still show kindness, that we will continue to show the ability to love on each other. Jimmy, despite the difficulties that he endured, he still chose that. In the end, he still chose to love and to be kind. And so that's what I'm hoping that audiences will receive from this experience, which I believe it is an experience. I don't believe it's just a movie. I do believe that audience will find it as an experience of love and kindness, and to leave with that regardless of our life situation, we will continue to choose that over hatred and unkindness.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you about that's really important, you chose to put the studios there in Texas. Now, I know Jimmy Stewart had a deep love for Texas, but why did you choose Texas? Why is this the location for your studio?
Okay, you want the real story?
I want the real story.
I didn't choose it. I honestly did not choose it. At the time, I was actually selling quite a bit of stuff. And this may sound different or, not normal for people that don't operate out of faith, but I felt tremendously on my heart to go see this property, which I did. So the very first time I go to Fort Worth, very first time in my life, I end up with this property, and a studio was built on that, not knowing any history about Jimmy Stewart, not knowing that I was even going to be involved with this movie, Jimmy. It was honestly a matter of faith that whole studio came about, and we'll need a much longer time frame to tell the whole story, but that is the honest truth. I didn't choose it. It just happened. It was put on my heart to go see this property. I saw it on a Monday, made a deal that night.
Wow.
Contract was drafted on Tuesday, and I signed on Wednesday. It was probably the quickest deal I've ever made, and I've done quite a few deals. My husband and I have, and so I do believe it is a matter of faith, and God wanted something to happen. I truly believe that.
That's incredible. God always has a plan, and sometimes it shocks us and surprises us, and we're kind of like, okay, God, here we are, and here you are now with Papaian Studios. And the big question is what else is next? You know, Jimmy's a big project. It comes out later this year in November. But what else are you looking at now as you sort of navigate this new venture?
We actually have a few projects under our umbrella right now that we're working on. A couple of them will be with Aaron in development, and then we have one that's I'm not sure if I am able to discuss it here, but we have one that touches on the unfortunate topic of trafficking, and that is going to be released the beginning of next year. And so we're working with a international team for that one. That one's exciting, and we have a TV pilot that is more on the comedic side that we're also in development. So we have a few under our belt, and we're excited
That's
about all of them.
incredible. That's really amazing. You know, we talked about a lot here and your inspiration and why you're doing what you're doing. What else do you want people to know? You know, if they want more information, where can they go?
They can definitely go to our website, papaianstudios.com. That's we have a launching page there, but that's really in a tribute to my husband. And then thereafter, we're going to launch the full website. What is it that people want to know? I think I'd like for people to understand that we're extremely selective in the projects that we participate in or that we support. Extremely selective, and so we'd like it to be where if Papaian Studios name is involved, you can be guaranteed quality, a great message, just nothing cheesy for sure, and that we are working with tremendous people. We're extremely selective because I'm grateful to God that I'm in a position where I really don't need to be doing any of this, but it is a passion for God to be able to say, okay, what projects is it that you want out here? And so we're extremely selective in terms of the quality of the people and the projects that we participate and support. And so if you hear Papaian Studios, know that it's a stamp of approval for great content.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, joining us today and sharing your story. We're very excited to see what happens next.
Thank you. Same here.